Hello, welcome back. Haven't done an unboxing in a while, so I got a couple items in the mail yesterday and thought I would show them off. So we'll get started with our first one here. I think I need to sharpen my knife. As you can see, the post office did a good job of taking care of the package. Very impressive. Let's see. Again, the trick of this is to try not to cut myself or the merchandise. Like I said, I think my knife's getting a little dull. That doesn't help anything. Okay. So, looks like everything was packaged really nice. We got the little air bubbles. So, as you can see there, we got some 1912 action. So, very nicely packaged and everything together. Let's take a look. So, I think these are, I got these from the second-hand store. Or not the second-hand store. I got these second-hand. So, looks like cards are in excellent shape. So I'm not real familiar with 1912. And these are APBA, of course. I think these envelopes were made by Chris White, I believe. The person who sold these to me said that, and they look pretty amazing. I've never seen the white envelopes, but those are really nice. So, again, really getting into APBA lately. And it seems like I did a video about trying to obtain Stratomatic past seasons. So I might do one about APBA sometime once I get more experience under my belt. But seems like these are obviously the newer releases, copyright 2016. Well, you got the stats and you got the double-sided splits. Double-sided splits, and so these seem to be a little harder to get on the secondary market than the older versions. I know like original sets from the 50s and 60s, those were kind of hard to get and expensive, but like the 70s and 80s and even the 90s, the original versions of those seem to be easier to get and more available than versions that are the current rendition. Generally speaking, I prefer the current rendition. I like the stats and I like the splits. However, I do have a few sets of the originals, like 76. I've got 1919, 1936, 1953, 1950. So I've got a few sets of the original style, and they certainly do have a charm and an allure to them. But overall, I prefer these because I like to have the lefty-righty splits. As those who've been watching some of my games with APBA know, I've been using those in my play. So at any rate, looks like in 1912, the Red Sox were the world champions. I think this was before Babe Ruth. We got Tris Speaker and Harry Hooper. I know Speaker's a Hall of Famer. Not sure about Hooper. He didn't have a Hall of Fame year, 242 average. Speaker, however, hit a robust 383 and 10 home runs. That was a lot of home runs for 1912. Duffy Lewis, names I've heard of. If Ruth was in here, he would have been a pitcher, but I don't think he was here this early. Cards are new because they're hard to hard to shuffle through. Let's see. Okay, got Smoking Joe Wood. I believe he's a Hall of Famer. 34-5 with a 191 ERA. Very nice. Yeah, I wouldn't mind having a season when Ruth was pitching. I think it was like 16 and 17, maybe 18. And no Ruth. And I thought this was before his time. But at any rate, card's in excellent shape. And I do like these envelopes. Let's see. Got the White Sox. I'm a big fan of the 1919 and 20 White Sox. I think they won the World Series in 17. They probably didn't have anybody on their team. Shane O'Collins, he was on the 1919 team. Ping Bodie, I think he ended up going to the Yankees if I remember. They got Buck Weaver. Only hit 224. So got a couple of the guys that ended up being in those really good teams. Ray Schalk, Hall of Fame catcher, didn't play much. Must have been more of a rookie that year. And let me drop this down just a little bit. I don't think you can see the cards well enough. Got it a little too high. I wanted a bird's eye view, but that was just a little too much bird's eye. That's a little better. Kid Gleason, wow, I think he was the manager in 1919. I believe. See if they had Seacott or Ed Walsh. He's a Hall of Famer. Yep, there's Seacott. Didn't have a great year, but he was there nonetheless. Let's see, he was born in 84. So in 12, that'd be 16. And my math's horrible when it comes to that stuff. So anyway, you got the White Sox. It looks like they came in 4th place. So I did want to look at one other. So there's the New York Giants, who were 1st place in the National League. They got beat by the Red Sox in the World Series. There he is, Christy Mathewson. I've always been fascinated with him. Let's see if we can get that down just a little more. Always been fascinated with him. He had quite a year. An A with a Y with a ZZ. So 23-12, 4 saves, 2.12 ERA. So very nice. Snodgrass, I've heard of him. So don't have a lot of dead ball. Don't have a lot of dead ball seasons. Fred Merkel, I believe Merkel's boner. I believe he did something dumb-headed. Buck Herzog. Heine Groh, I've heard of him, but I don't think that was one of his good years. But at any rate, I have 1908 in replay. I have 1911 in Strat. Now I have 1912 in APBA. And then I've got 1919 in APBA. The old version of APBA, printed back in the, it was printed in the early 80s, I believe. And then I think 1920 is kind of when the dead ball era officially ceased. So again, I got 08, 11, and 12. So at 19, if you want to count that one. So, I do like the dead ball. I like all eras, but I do like the dead ball. So this would be interesting to get some action going with the splits and everything. So the other thing I got is kind of related to this. got anything important here. And this will be interesting. I'm not exactly for sure what I'm getting with this. So this is from Chris White as well. He made those envelopes. And what this is the 1920 Negro National League. So what I will say for Chris is that the cards are top notch. Let's see. Look at Indianapolis. They were pretty good. So as you can see, the back of the cards are amazing. And those are, very impressive. So anyway, and then you got the envelopes. Looks very nice. So again, that's incredibly impressive. So let's look and see what we got as far as the Indianapolis ABCs. I read a biography of Oscar Charleston, who's probably my favorite Negro League player. And he started out in Indianapolis. That's where he's from. And the Indianapolis teams, the early Indianapolis teams were very good. So the Negro National League started in 1920. It was their inaugural year. So let's see who we got. So you got Ben Taylor, who's a Hall of Famer, I believe. So it looks like he's got some master grades on here. That's cool. So it looks like it's a single-sided master grade. So like SA means he's a spray hitter, I think, and 2 means that he loses 2, like he's a lefty. So those, I think he loses 2 on lefties. I'm not for sure about the single-sided. I'll have to do a little research on that, but I know Taylor, Hall of Famer, Biz Mackey, good player. I'm not for sure how good he was then. Connie Day, heard of him. I guess you can get to where I think I'm getting to the point where I can judge a little bit from the cards what kind of player they were. So he's got a re-roll on 33, 66, and 11. His 55 is a 7, which is almost always a hit. His 22 is a 7, which is almost always a hit. Let me bring this down a little bit more. Like I said, the cards are the important thing here. There we go. Now we're in business. We're just looking at Taylor. A lot of 6s in the second column. He's got some 11s in the second column and an 11 on 15, so that means he stole some bases. So I'd say that's a pretty good card. He's even got a little bit of power, as on the second column, 11, 22, 33, and 66 are taters. Got a couple 2s there, which would be triples, so I'd say that's a pretty impressive card. Dizzy Dismukes, heard of him. He's a BY pitcher. His master grade's 12, which is pretty good. Steel Arm Taylor. C.I. Taylor and brothers there. There's Oscar. So he's got a pitching grade of 13. He's a B. Let's see. Let's look at his card here. So his 11, 22, 33, 66 are all re-rolls. 7 on 55, 7 on 44. So very good. He's got an 11 on 15, 25. He's got a 3 outfielder. He was, as I understand it, he was a super amazing center fielder in his younger days. This was his younger days. Got a 1 on the second column on 11, 22, 33, 66. So he's got some power. Got quite a few. See, he's got quite a few twos there, so I'd say that's a pretty impressive card. So who was there? Again, back then they so Biz Mackey's only got a 5 at catcher, so that's interesting. So I'm interested. So what this is again the 1920. So as you know, I'm the replay gamer. Number one, I love Negro leagues, and so I'm always looking for something from the Negro leagues. But I do like seasons, and the Negro leagues are a challenge in that regard. So when I saw Chris offered this, I was particularly interested in it because I like seasons. So I got both of Strat's Diamond Gems. I got their All Stars. I got APBA's great Negro League teams, and those are fun to play. But again, it's hard to do a season. I have 1923 replay, which is a very good set. That's a season. So when I saw that he offers quite a few seasons. So Strat on their computer versions, they have years, and what they do is that they, again, you had leagues. So like you had some teams that were independent. So basically, when they do a season, they do all the Negro League teams that were available, whether they were independent, and then make a league out of it, and then prorate them to about 154 games. And so that I really like. So they're taking some liberties there. But again, there's challenges when trying to do Negro leagues. So the stats from that would be really cool because, again, they take some liberties, but you get a bit more of a league setting. So again, I imagine Chris took these stats from the stat heads, I think is what it's called, the Negro League, and obviously a lot of stats. But again, the card quality is top notch. I mean, you just can't beat that. I mean, that is so impressive with the back and everything. So very happy with that. So let's see what Kansas City had going on. In 1920. So this might be a cool, that 1919 APBA set I have where they have the original, the original printing back in the 80s anyway. These might be compatible, but again, I've got enough teams here and they're all contemporary. Another thing I don't like, when you're doing the Diamond Gems, you've got Satchel Paige on 3 teams, and I just can't. That's too supernatural for me. Hurley McNair, heard of him? Dobie Moore, good player. Jose Mendez. John Donaldson, I've heard of him. Bullet Joe Rogan. Let's see, he's a B pitcher of the 15 grade. So like some of these guys, they didn't know much about him. So I'm assuming Nolan, didn't know his first name. George Carr, I think he was called Tank. One thing I do love about APBA cards that Chris doesn't do is to put the biography information. The thing APBA does is that each card's kind of really representative of that player, and it's not cluttered up with stats and things like that. A lot of stats, things like that. So he doesn't do that. So I would have liked that to have their birth date and where they were born. But so I think the Detroit or the American Giants, obviously the man who started the Negro National League. The Giants was his team. Jelly Gardner, good player. Cristobal Torriente, a very, very good player. Dave Brown, A and C pitcher, so he had a good year. Good player. Frank Warfield was a good player. Dave Malarker. or Malarcher. I don't know for sure how you pronounce that. Bingo DeMoss. I think he was known more as a defensive guy, but he had some good offensive seasons. Leroy Grant was pretty good, I believe. I'm going to drink some coffee, as people tend to do on these things. So again, you can't complain about the quality of the cars. They're very nice. So who do we got here? Jimmy Lyons. Heard of him. Bill Gatewood. He's an A pitcher. Looks like he did some outfielding as well. A lot of that went on back then. Pete Hill, Hall of Famer, I believe. Very good player. Frank Warfield. Didn't I see him on another team? See, they jumped around a lot, even in season. Andy Cooper. Good pitcher. Mac Eggleston, pretty good catcher. Bruce Petway. So a team that wasn't around too long was the Dayton Marcos. Not sure if they've got anybody I recognize. George Britt, I've heard of him. I think I've heard of Sam Bennett. Jelly Gardner. Again, I saw him somewhere else, so again, he must have been there part-time. Candy Jim Taylor, I've heard of him. So I know that I think the seam heads, the Negro League database has got some really good information. So let me look real quick here. 1920. So, like for example, the Atlantic City Backrack Giants played in 1920, and they were kind of an Eastern independent club. So I would love to have that club with these, so that you can kind of get all the Negro Leaguers, because there were some really good players. You got the Brooklyn Royal Giants played that year. So there was 8 teams in the. Looks like the Chicago Giants were last, and the American Giants were first. Detroit Stars second. Monarchs third. And the ABCs came in. Let's see, I wonder who the St. Louis Giants had. Apparently Giants was a popular name. You got the American Giants, Chicago Giants, St. Louis Giants. Apparently that was a popular name. Actually, let me look them up here. St. Louis Giants. Looks like Charlie Blackwell and Doc Dudley were their main. Blackwell and Dudley. Here's Blackwell, 3 outfielder. Good looking card. Wow, he's even got a asterisk after a double. That's impressive. In about 3 places. And who is the other one? Dudley. There's Doc Dudley. Looks like he hit about 302 that year. See who their main pitcher was. So, looks like Drake was the one they used the most. if we can find him. There he is. He's a B with a Z. Maybe I'll see what Chris would charge to do those other couple teams, the Brooklyn Royal Giants and the Atlantic City Backrack Giants in particular. Played quite a few games. Looks like they were the most prominent independent clubs. Hilldale played a little bit. Again, the Negro Leagues, there's challenges because, they quite often, they made more money barnstorming. And so they, the leagues quite often came secondary. Like Satchel Paige, a few years, he would go to Mexico or, do barnstorming. So who is this? There's Cuban Stars West, and there was also a Cuban Stars East that played some. Like John Henry Lloyd was with the Brooklyn Royal Giants. Dick Redding was with the Atlantic City Backrack. So those are two really big names in Negro League baseball. So again, I might see what he would charge to do those two for me. Let's see, who is this? This is the Cuban Stars West. Let's see who their main player was. Looks like Bernardo Barro, and I'm probably mispronouncing these names, and Valentine Drake, or Drakey, was their main players. Let's find Barro. There he is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So they didn't have a big staff. Let's see who they did for pitching. So it looks like their big guy, actually their best one was Jose LeBlanc. He didn't. Cheo Hernandez pitched the most. But let's find LeBlanc. So he is an A with a Y and a Z. Played some other positions. Looks like every catcher is a 5, and I think catchers go higher than that. They go up to 9 on normal APBA. I'm wondering if they're, because every catcher, I haven't seen anybody higher than a 5. There's Drake. So anyway, that's okay. Might as well look at the Giants. They're the last one I haven't opened. The Chicago Giants. Let's look and see what they did. Chicago Giants, they were last, 5-31. They had John Beckwith, had Frank Duncan, so they had some names. Looks like their best player, however, was Willie Green at third. Third baseman, Willie Green. Let's see who they had pitching. It's like their most used player was John Taylor. So quite often they, again, as I understand it, they would barnstorm through. There's Steel Arm Davis again. They would barnstorm through there's John Taylor, a C with a Y and a Z. They would barnstorm during the week and then play league games on the weekend. So again, a lot of their main pitchers, would be used on the weekends. So they didn't have very deep pitching staffs, again, as I understand it. And then, sometimes they wouldn't even show up for the games because they were making more money barnstorming somewhere. So at any rate, this is a very interesting set. And again, the quality of the cards is exceptional. Very thick. And you got to love the logos on the back. And so it'll be interesting to throw these together and see what I can come up with. So again, looks like there was some team players who switched even in this year. Again, they hopped around a lot. Nobody honored contracts, so whoever was paying the most is who they would go with that year. And sometimes even in the middle of the year. So, but the chance to get a complete season interested me very greatly. So anyway, we'll see how this goes. So those are the goodies I got for today. Always fun to get new things, and hopefully I will get these into the rotation soon. So anyway, I appreciate it very much, and I'll see you next time.